Alright, so up next we have the carbon cycle. Carbon is held in the atmosphere, in living organisms, fossil fuels, and in the ocean. About 20% of our body weight is actually carbon. So, carbon in the atmosphere can be taken up by plants and animals through the process of photosynthesis. The carbon dioxide is taken up and incorporated into organisms' tissues. Some of that carbon dioxide will return to the atmosphere when organisms respire, when they breathe, okay? And this process is called cellular respiration. It's also returned after organisms die. So when they die, decomposers are going to break down their material and they're going to return the carbon dioxide to the water, either to the water or back into the atmosphere through respiration. So CR is abbreviated for cellular respiration. Carbon is also exchanged between the atmosphere and the ocean. Normally the amount of carbon dioxide that comes into the ocean and what is released into the atmosphere is about the same. However, humans kind of impact that, sometimes more now than ever before in history that we've seen. Some of this carbon dioxide that enters into the ocean from the atmosphere is going to be taken up by algae through the process of photosynthesis. Sometimes this carbon dioxide will dissolve and it's going to combine with calcium to form calcium carbonate. This calcium carbonate can then form limestone. This is a really slow process. When organisms die, they can decompose and also become fossilized in over millions of years. They can be turned into fossil fuels. So the final process of this cycle is extraction of these fossil fuels, things like oil and gas. Extracting these fossil fuels doesn't alter the cycle, but the next step, combustion, does. So when these things are burned, burning of fossil fuels is going to release carbon back into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide, or it can go into soil as ash. There are two different processes going on here. So biotic, things that animals are doing. Abiotic, this is something that humans are doing. It's not an organic process. Abiotic process. Let's see, let's talk some about human impacts. So in the absence of human disturbance, the exchange of carbon between the surface and the atmosphere is actually steady. However, humans alter the environment by doing some of these things. So the best known human impact is combustion of fossil fuels. So this releases carbon back into the atmosphere, which increases the atmospheric carbon concentrations, and it's going to upset the balance between Earth's pools and what is in the atmosphere. This excess carbon dioxide that is in the atmosphere is going to retain heat using greenhouse gases. And the result that we're seeing from this is global climate change. Tree harvesting or deforestation is another human activity. So trees store a lot of carbon in their wood, both above the ground and in their root systems. When forests are destroyed by cutting or burning, it increases the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So unless new trees are planted to kind of recapture that carbon, then the carbon dioxide balance will be upset by doing this as well. If you were to regrow those forests, you would increase the carbon storage. Carbon would then be stored back in the trees, and it would reduce the atmospheric carbon dioxide because through the process of respiration, carbon dioxide is released. Sorry guys. Carbon dioxide is released, but plants take it back up in photosynthesis and convert it to oxygen, which is what we breathe, right? Also, extra carbon dioxide in oceans is creating this compound called carbonic acid, and it increases the acidity of the ocean. This carbonic acid and increased acidity is causing thinner shells in animals in the ocean that have shells, and this is really, really bad for coral. This is part of the whole coral bleaching problem. So, coal comes from plants, oil comes from that marine plankton, and limestone comes from shells, this calcium carbonate. Two ways that release carbon into the atmosphere is cellular respiration, so when we breathe out, we are releasing carbon dioxide, and also combustion takes the carbon dioxide that was trapped in these fossil fuels and releases it back into the atmosphere. If you were to take away decomposers, because decomposers are breaking down the plants and the animals and releasing that carbon back into the atmosphere, if you were to take away decomposers, you would be releasing a lot of carbon dioxide back into this cycle, but decomposers are really good at helping create storage of carbon dioxide, so that would be another human impact if we reduced those decomposers, okay? So carbon cycle, there's a lot in the atmosphere. Plants take it up through photosynthesis. Plants and animals will die. Their organic matter can be broken down. Carbon dioxide can be released back through cellular respiration. We breathe, that's also cellular respiration, giving carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere. It can be taken up by algae during photosynthesis, which is then eaten by other ocean animals. They die, they are stored in large pools, which eventually form fossil fuels, which can then be extracted, combusted, carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. Alright? That's all.